We are talking magazines on Nyberg today with Leslie Singer, who's the creative-in-chief, John Gaffney, editor-in-chief of Connecticut Coastal Magazine. All right, this magazine is lovely.
Thank you.
My first question to you, in a digital age where everything's online, how do you have the guts to do a magazine? And statistics show 138 magazines or thereabouts have been launched in this country this year. Is there room for both?
Absolutely.
Oh, she deferred to you. Did you see that?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're off to a good start. You know,
What are
I
you
think
trying
that,
to do with Coastal Connecticut?
and I have to give credit to our publisher, Mark Spihar. You know, he had a vision to have something that's tactile. If you're going to live here, I mean, this is such a great area to live, and it's so much about being outside and experiencing how you live here. And to do this digitally would have come up a little flat, although we will. But I think, you know, to your point that a lot of magazines start, I think a lot of them start with the idea that we're going to go digital, we're going to be a lot of different things. We wanted to be a real experience, something you can hold in your hand and read.
You want to be a coffee table magazine? Is that what we're trying? And you're doing 2 this year in 2013.
Right.
And the goal is to do 6 or
6
8
to 8 next
in
year.
2014.
And then we're going to weed it up into a monthly eventually.
What am I going to get in Coastal Connecticut? What am I getting in this magazine?
You're getting community. You're getting sort of under the hood of we're a quiet community. We're not showy. We're not the Hamptons. We're not certain communities where you want to show off. We're quiet, and we have a lot of brains here. We have researchers, we have doctors, we have preservationists, we have authors, we have chefs, we have food, we have incredible stores. And we're also a community that's sort of interesting, that we all live in each other's towns. You don't get that everywhere.
169 towns in the state of Connecticut, and we do kind of all overlap.
We all overlap. You go from New Haven all the way up to New London, and everybody uses little pieces of every town for different things. So this magazine sort of brings that entire community together and as one. And again, back to the digital, it's tactile. We're about the reader. And you asked about being coffee table. As the creative director, of course, we want something that looks great on your coffee table.
You want everybody to see
this.
this.
Yeah, I mean, you know, no lie there. But in terms of our reader is our client. Our reader that's who we're true to. And John's the wordsmith, and I think when you read it, you see that there's a particular voice. And that's also incredibly important.
Let's talk about whose idea this was. I want to get, to use your term, I want to get under the hood at how you gutted this magazine out, how you got it out there, the hours, the manpower. What do you think? So let's start, tell me about how this came to be. And I want the nuts and bolts.
You want nuts and bolts?
I want the dirty stuff,
I can tell you,
stuff.
all right, I can tell you that I met with Mark Spihar, geez, I think it might have been 3 years ago. And he had an idea for a magazine like this.
And he came out of a lot of magazines.
Mark comes from a lot of magazines, Esquire, SI. He is a print guy. I got a call from Mark once. He was holding a copy of Esquire, and he was pointing to an ad, I think, from a Colin Scotch. And he said, "This is print. This is why you do print advertising." He is all passionate about that.
So you get a call 3 years ago.
Yeah, and then, well, I met Leslie about a year ago, and she was working on a prototype for a different magazine. And I recognized that Leslie is a genius. I mean, Leslie can
take that to the bank. He just called you a genius.
She can visualize things in a way that other people just don't. I mean, she just sees the way that words and images can come together on a page. So I got Mark and Leslie together, and the sparks really just started flying.
Okay, so that's 3 people in the room.
Now there's 3 people in the room, and then Leslie has a couple of people that she works with on a regular basis that really made the back end of it, the infrastructure and the operations and the actual page layouts come together.
So then what happens? You get the people in the room and you say, we're going to go up against all odds and we're going to put something print out there. Tell me, because I know there's hours. Initially, there's a lot of your own money probably that goes into something because you're passionate about it, because you believe in a print magazine. So how did it finally come out?
Well, like everything, there's a process. And luckily, we could all hit the ground running. I had a very rich publishing background, as John did, as
Tell me a
Mark
little bit
did.
about your background.
I had a design firm in New York that did a lot of publishing, and I ended up doing a lot of custom publishing for big blue chip guys, you know, Coke and General Motors, and it just, my love of publishing. So I always wanted to get back into it, but you need an army. I mean, it really takes a village. So I don't even have it on my LinkedIn. You know, publishing is like, you know, oh, it was a nice memory. It was a great, I wanted to get back into it. So it seemed like kismet when one day John said, you're going to get a call from my friend Mark. I met Mark at, in Madison for coffee. And he said, well, you know, thinking about doing this magazine, and I think I kind of need a logo, a look. And I said, well, I brand things. I think we can do that. And I love publishing. I think we can do that. And then we all got together and we said, we had another colleague who's not here today, obviously, but Tony Allende, who's our ops director, who also has a rich publishing background, who knew how to get the schedule started, the budget started, how we were going to do this, and just
it
started.
sounds so daunting.
It is, and we started to build the infrastructure, but luckily because we all knew the business, that we knew what needed to be done. It's kind of like asking football players to go back on the, they would know what position to be in. So everybody has a very specific job in a magazine, and it's best not to overlap. We have, twice a week we have status meetings. We probably text 3,000 times a day.
There's that digital thing.
And, and right before. And
What we call after.
Yeah. And then we, and then it became the late nights. You know, every magazine has their late nights.
Sure.
You know, certain ones are, you're working 4 nights a week and through the weekend, and then you get 2 days off.
I want to ask you who came up, because I think this is brilliant, coastal Connecticut. To me, the water, my opinion, is everything. Love the coast of any state that has a coast, any country. So that's water, that's vacation, that's beach, that's a mentality of that kind of life. How did you pick that name?
Actually, Mark Spihar did. It was really Mark's vision from the get-go. And he knew that our community was all about living on the coast, that there was a certain sensibility. And then one day we were having coffee and we were trying to come up with that one handle. And we sort of said, yeah, it's about life and it's about style. And we said beach, and the next thing you knew,
Alliteration.
it became Lifestyle Beach was Coastal Connecticut, because as John's first story is, everything is connected in our towns to the beach. Our Main Street and our beach life is very interestingly connected in terms of preservation, what happens during the storms, our economy, our tourism. Everything is connected to sort of this living on the coast.
John, what makes this different, this magazine different from other magazines that are put out in the state? I mean, why do we pick this magazine up?
Yeah, you know, I'm glad you asked that, because you were kind of hinting in that. There's a story that kind of brings out what we did here and how it's different. And I'll tell you, there's a guy named Ed Ricciuti who lives in he lives in Killingworth. And he was a writer for Field and Stream, The Atlantic Angler. I mean, this, you know, very high-end outdoor writer. He's about 70 years old. And he thought his time with magazine was done. And I said, Ed, you know, we're starting a print magazine. He said, you're crazy. And I said, no, we're really starting a
How
print
many people
magazine.
told you you were crazy?
A lot of people told us we
people,
were crazy.
yeah.
But, and they might be right. But, Ed, you know, what Ed said is, hey, I got 2 great story ideas. You know, here's one about wildlife that are coming to your door and why it's dangerous. But what we wanted to do is take a step up. So there are people on this shoreline, like Catherine Dixon, who's making movies, great movies out of Madison. George McManus, who you have right there, is doing great work in terms of ecosystems on Long Island Sound at Yukon. There's so many people here that are interesting, and what we really wanted to do at the beginning was get into that. Let's go get that. Let's find out all of these people that make this place what it is. So yeah, it's the beach, but there's a vibe to the shoreline, and the vibe comes from where we live, coastal, but also comes from the people that are here. And we just knew so many people that we knew had great stories. So the story's kind of connected to the people, and the people make it. I mean, I think, you know, we've had this argument before. I think people make it. To me, this is all about, it's personality profiles that get fit into an issue and are compelling to read. I wanted somebody to pick this up, wherever you're going to pick it up. I don't read this the whole time through. I'm going to read it maybe to page 15. Hey, this is pretty good. I'm going to put this away.
But to your point, you're going to keep it around. I mean, some people read a magazine and either give it away or throw it out. You're trying to build something that maybe you want to keep the volumes, you know, lined up.
I
That's
like
why
that.
we did such a beautiful spine.
And you probably picked that, the spine.
We did.
She did.
A lot of magazines to stay alive are really heavy in ads. I pick up fashion magazines, whatever it is these days, and there's not a lot of guts to it
In ours,
in magazines today. So how are you going to keep this not so everywhere ad driven?
well, I mean, it is a model, and you do need it. And in the real secret sauce to successful publishing is to have the right ads in the book. And they've done many, many studies where Vogue September issue, people want the information. It's when they see an ad that's not right, that was just thrown in gratuitously because the publisher needed some more money, and you start to sniff that. In this magazine, people want it. You're seeing stores from Brantford if you live in Guildford. You're seeing things from New London if you live, you know, in even West Haven. So we're
So New Haven to Stonington,
it's
and
pretty
north
much,
up to Essex?
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, part of the love that people have is to see the environments that they don't usually see. So I think as long as we stay true to our school and be true to our community and bringing them value, the ads should also be of value.
Are you going to surprise us a little bit in this magazine?
Oh,
You're going
yeah.
to do.
We hope so.
You're the creative, so are we dreaming up some things?
yeah.
I don't know,
the next
pop-up
issue.
things.
The next
or-
issue is going to be amazing.
Can you tease us with that?
No,
That-
absolutely not.
All right.
Could a little
So,
bit. No, I'll
so
give
the
you
next
that.
one comes out in
just
November
being-
for
Yeah,
December.
we'll be on the street right around Thanksgiving. I mean,
Okay.
you know, one of the things we're going to do that kind of talks to where this magazine is, you know, I think advertisers, merchants need a vehicle like this. They need something that, like you said, somebody's going to read and put it away. It's shelf life. My ad isn't just going somewhere. So, you know, as an editor, I like that. I think as an advertiser, I would like that. But, you know, everybody does a gift guide for the holiday. What we're going to do is a Christmas stroll on the shoreline. We're going to tell you what you didn't know about what happens in Brantford on the Green for Christmas time. We're going to tell you the history of the Essex Christmas stroll. So we're going to go right up the shoreline
the
and
hood.
yeah, we're going to tell you everything that, you know, I don't want this to be predictable. I want to learn things. I want to know things I didn't know before I opened the magazine. That's our acid test. We could talk about a lot of stories that are like,
Exactly.
I don't want to read about this. You know, Chuck Still from the Cape. We had a.
I'm on the board of the Kate. I
Well,
got
we had,
to just
we
say
had a
that.
questionnaire for him, and we were thinking like, yeah, I don't know if this works. This seems kind of ticky-tacky. But, you know, Chuck's answers
We're so
were
great.
dynamite. Talking about.
I have to
yeah.
show this picture because this is Chuck Still, and that picture
How dynamic is that?
is dynamic.
Yeah.
And I hear this was at the Institute Library in New Haven, which is another gem that people
Yeah.
don't know about.
Exactly.
And he was sitting there in a chair. This is an awesome, awesome picture of Chuck Still at the Cape.
Yeah. Chuck didn't ask for any copies of the magazine, by the way.
Well, you know what? He did.
did.
I was
I
at a
know.
board meeting the other day, so he said, can you bring something?
Are you serious? That's so funny. That's so
he's,
funny.
He's great.
But,
He was so good. for
but
this.
serving the merchants and the advertising, you know, that really is part of the community play. It really is. I mean, and something that, to your point, you know, you had mentioned, oh, it feels good. It feels, and that's exactly giving integrity to not only the edit.
Well, just to sum this up, I think there is room, in my opinion, for print, for digital. Everything can't be ephemeral, just here.
Exactly.
And I realize we talk to each other, and I do it all the time through social media. But there's room for this, and it's a beautiful magazine, and I wish you so much
Thank
luck.
you.
And I can't wait to read about the stroll.
Thanks, Sam.
And
Thank
keep surprising us. Connecticut Coastal Magazine.
Thank you.
John and Leslie, thanks for being here.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much for having us.